our socials at KBLA 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
By the way, if you miss any of our weekday shows in real time, you can always catch up by checking out the podcast of your favorite shows at your leisure. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black.
Got your black.
Follow the leader in the leader. Oh my God. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader. Follow the leader.
Shine, flies, no time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies, be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right, we gon' get it right, we gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting a movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, your host and chief White House correspondent. I'm in touch, so you be in touch. Follow me on all the social media platforms at Dr. Nii-Quartelai. Just put in Dr. Nii-Q, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. Never miss an episode. And while you're at it, download the KBLA app to listen to us live or on demand, or simply just tell Alexa to play KBLA Talk 1580. In your national news roundup today, this one story right here is really a mix of sort of the good, bad, and ugly. Washington governor orders team to study data centers' impact on energy use, job creation, and tax revenue. ProPublica is reporting that Washington Governor Bob Ferguson, just this past Tuesday, signed an executive order forming a team to evaluate the impact of data centers on energy use, state tax revenue, and job creation. This, of course, follows a Seattle Times ProPublica investigation last year into the clean energy and economic impact of state power-guzzling data center industry, which is the backbone of the modern internet. Data centers, they're like warehouse-like structures, and they're filled with a whole lot of computer servers. They receive some of Washington's largest corporate tax breaks. They require enormous amounts of electricity, a need that is only expected to grow with the increasing reliance on artificial intelligence. So why am I lifting this up? Well, it was actually one of the biggest stories that we didn't hear enough about the first week that Trump transitioned back into the White House. These data centers are good for artificial intelligence, are good for business, but they do have an impact on our energy grid. They have an impact on efforts around clean energy, and we're going to keep bringing it up because this is going to have impacts on everyday people. Again, there's the study is to look at the impact of energy use, job creation, and tax revenue. So if you care about your taxes, if you care about getting a job, keeping your job, if you care about energy, which when energy costs go up, the cost of everything else goes up. And last election, weren't we just talking about how the rent was too dang high and eggs and bacon were too dang high? And so this is why we're attentive to it, and we hope you will be too. Speaking of being attentive, just in a community update here in Los Angeles to folks impacted particularly by the Eaton fire. Tonight, February 6th, from 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific, you may want to head over to New Revelations Missionary Baptist Church, located at 855 North Orange Grove Boulevard in Pasadena. And join the NAACP and a host of community organizations to get the information you need on housing, insurance claim support, pending litigation, and financial resource assistance from the Red Cross. Food will be provided there, and so you definitely want to make sure you go and check that out. Just earlier today, I was at the First AME Church in Pasadena, where Reverend Al Sharpton and attorney Ben Crump were there leading a memorial service in honor of 3 of the many folks in Altadena who lost their lives in the fire. We'll be talking more about that on Monday. But this hour, don't you go anywhere. I want you to lean in to my conversation with Tamika D. Mallory. You know, Tamika Mallory, the activist and author of this new incredible book. Tap in to our conversation when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. You're listening to and streaming a more.
Okay.
You're listening.
Okay.
You're
and give us your answer.
We have no permanent friends or permanent enemies. Only permanent interests. As we effort to build a more perfect.
listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and I have been looking forward for weeks the opportunity to talk to the author of this beauty right here. It's I Lived to Tell the Story. It's a memoir of love, legacy, and resilience by author Tamika D. Mallory. You might remember her as a trailblazing social justice leader, a movement strategist, a globally recognized civil rights activist, and co-founder of Until Freedom, not to mention the historic Women's March. But if you liked her best-selling book, State of Emergency, which came out in 2021, you're really going to love this book. It's more intimate. It's more personal. I can say, Tamika, just being an admirer of your work over the years and seeing how you move in different spaces, it was really wonderful to get to know you in a more personal way. Everybody out there that thinks that, Tamika, just has this hard edge, this is the soft part. This is the soft part. Talk to me about why this book, why now?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Nee. I appreciate you for having me on today. I'm so overwhelmed. This is the first few days of the release of my new book, and people have just been so kind in listening to and reading the vulnerability that I feel I've provided in that book. I think that with my first book being about sort of the state of emergency in America that I think Black folks are still dealing with today, it was necessary for me to have an opportunity to dig deep into the personal side and also to share that with the world so that folks will know that my motivation for being in this movement isn't based upon something superficial. It's really my life, my day-to-day life, how I grew up, where I was raised, the experiences that I've had since a young girl, how my parents engaged me in the movement, and I began to take it on as my own after the death of my son's father. Here, my son is now 25 years old. I've been raising a young Black man pretty much on my own, of course, with the help of many individuals, but as his mother for 25 years, more than 2 decades. And I tell you, the struggles that I've faced and the fears and the things that I have gone through certainly inform what you will read in those pages. And then my own life, decisions I've made, mistakes I've made, places I've been, and triumphs, great moments, fun, energy, life, culture, all of that is in I live to tell the story, and I'm excited that others will have an opportunity to read what my life has really truly been like off the screen and off social media.
In the early pages of the book, you write about showing up. Speaking of the culture, showing up in support of Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah.
And in the book, you write, all I could think about was how the system intended to silence her by holding her to an unreasonable standard in her personal life. There is not one who walks among us who's not held unsure feelings or even regret about something in their private life. I'm no exception. We've all fallen short at one point or another. There are some lows that I've reached, some friends I've hurt, some realities I wish I could change. You go on to say that on this day, I resolved to be there for her the way I've always wanted someone to be there for me. While it's important for me to recognize that there have always been people in my corner who have loved and supported me, the truth is that Black women in this country often feel isolated when we're faced with misogynistic attacks. And since she's not free, I'm not free. I was born fighting for freedom, and I will die fighting until freedom. When I read that right away, I wanted to hear how you were healing
Mm.
from the most recent election. A lot of Black women
Mm.
in my family, Black women I'm in community with,
Yeah.
are healing the best
Yes.
way they know how. How are you healing?
It's tough, I laid it all on the line during the most recent election. I understood, and all those that I worked very closely with, we understood what was at stake. And I think we're now getting an opportunity to see it in real time. I'm not sure why people didn't know from the first time that we had this person in the White House, how dangerous it could be. And now he's back, and he's back, in my judgment, with a vengeance. He's back with a true sense of retribution for whomever he may feel are his enemies. And I believe at times his enemies are even the American people, and certainly Black and brown folks. And so, again, it is a very dangerous time. And we were out there day and night. We were informing communities. I knocked on thousands of doors with these little knuckles right here. Sometimes people say they were out there, and out there just means, walking around, jumping off
Mhm.
buses and smiling and shaking some hands. But for us, when we say we were out there, we're talking about walking the streets day and night, talking to our people, hosting events. People don't get to see the grunt work of carrying the banners and setting up. We do all of that ourselves, and really engaging the community and bringing people out. But it never seems like it's enough. And I think that's the part that hurts me, that even though I know I did all that my little body could handle, because when I'm finished in any campaign, anyone who knows me will tell you, when I get home, I'm like, I'm several pounds lighter. I don't know why that didn't happen this time, though. This 44-year-old thing is completely different from in the past. I used to lose weight walking and being in the heat and all of that, but this time, I don't know what happened. But anyway, I put it all on the line. And so I beat myself up a little bit. Maybe we didn't knock on that extra door. Maybe we didn't talk to enough people. Maybe we didn't host enough events. Maybe the messaging wasn't exactly as it should have been. But I have to, in the healing process, tell myself that I'm only one person. My job is not to solve all the problems. My job is not even to win all of the fights. My job is to do my part and pass it along better to the person who's coming behind me. And that's a process, something that I've had to own, something I have to constantly work with. It's not easy. I'm going to tell you, Dr. Nii, it is not easy, because you go home with these thoughts that keep you up day and night, trying to figure out what more could I have done. But I am, now that I have been through enough experiences in my life, I'm beginning to be softer with myself. I think when you said it's the soft side, that's important, because I am beginning to be a little bit softer and gentle with myself, to say that I'm doing the best that I can possibly do.
You are, and doing the best you can do in light of many traumas. You're very candid in this book about a number of traumas that you have experienced in your life, that you've emerged from. And what really stood out to me was sort of the conversation you have in the book about the effects of trauma on your activism and leadership. And, like you, I've worked with a lot of leaders over the years when I was on the public affairs side of the house, and, now on the journalism side of the house. I have a chance to talk to a lot of leaders. And the one thing that I found is recurring is that healed people heal people, and unhealed people release a vengeance. And so talk to
Absolutely.
us about how you summon the courage to face your trauma with bravery and really examine the effect it's had on your activism and leadership so as to show up differently.
Well, first of all, if I did not take the time to really examine me, because I think that's what you're saying, is that it is an examination of self. We all spend a lot of time examining the world. And my apologies for the noise in the background. I'm on the road, I'm in a corner, and so my apologies. But we all we're really good. We're experts at examining the world, at looking at other people, picking out their faults, being able to identify the ills of everything around us. But it's really tough to sit with self and have to examine who we are, and also what are some of the decisions that we make every day that hinder us from being our best selves, and I've had to take that time to dig deep. And you're right. You can, when you are a person who is unhealed, or you at least are not living in a sense of trying to heal every single day, because that's a process as well. Just trying, just getting up every day, knowing, listen, I have traumas. I've got things that I've been dealing with since childhood. I've got relationships that broke me. I have a job that, I was fired from that may hurt me, or whatever the issues are. It can make you show up in the world as a hard person who wants to inflict upon other people some of the pain that you have felt. Because no one wants to be alone in pain. Everybody wants a friend to be with them when they're down. And how you get that friend sometimes can be from you actually harming people in the same ways in which you have been harmed. And so I've had to do that work to look at myself and examine exactly, first of all, who's the cause? Because sometimes, we think America, we think we have all these theys in our head. And I'll never forget my sister Mignon Moore one day said to me, who's an incredible political strategist. I'm sure you know Mignon. If anyone out there is listening and you don't know her, you should absolutely go look her up. And one day I was down and out during the Women's March. There was so much happening, so many attacks. The fury of the hate was all around us. And someone said to me, I was saying, they said, and they're going to do, and they're going to do this, and all these different people who were the theys. And Mignon asked me to identify each day. Who, they said what, they, and why are they important to you? And as I began to examine they, Dr. Nee, I'll tell you this, I realized that some of the days were me. It was me telling me that I couldn't, that I wasn't smart enough, that I didn't have whatever was needed in order for me to advance to the next level. I was they picking up narratives around me, and I was carrying them as if I believed somehow that I was less than, or that I was full of hate, or that my organizing, strategic organizing ability was not actually as good as it should be. And sometimes even thinking perhaps I was going about organizing in the wrong way by centering Black people, not just people of color, not just this broad perspective, but really focusing and narrowing in on my people. There were days when I truly had to tell myself, you're doing the right thing. And when she asked me to identify they, it freed me. It freed me from so much. And I tell you, whenever now, if I say they, I'm like, wait a minute, not they, Paul, Lisa, Tina, Tamika, whoever it is, I put a name on they. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's been my process for sure.
Not only does it answer my question, but I think you might have activated the healing for a whole lot of people out there that are listening and streaming this right now. There are a number of, activists and friends on the front lines that you're pretty candid about in the book. I remember reading about your sister, our sister, Latasha Brown. And for people who don't know, she lost her son. And her healing process still continues. And Latasha, if you're listening, we're sending you love.
Absolutely.
But talk to us about your decision in terms of who to include and what stories to include in this deeply personal memoir. I live to tell the story.
If I had the time, and if the publisher and the editors and all the folks responsible for keeping me on my timeline, this book would have been 800 pages long. Even now, I struggle again with the thought that I have failed myself and so many people because I forgot this, or I didn't get to include this, or I had to cut certain content. It was a very difficult process to narrow down who would be in this book and how I would name people. Some folks, their names have been changed. Others, they allowed me to tell parts of their stories as it pertains to things that have touched me. And it wasn't an easy process. And I'll tell you that. And editing is really, really important, because leave it up to me, my book it was all over the place. I had pages. If you could ever think of somebody who takes papers and throw them in the air and they fly all over and the wind blows them, that's exactly how my book was. It was all over the place. I was like, no, I need everything. To the last day, when they were like, we are closing this book, it's done, it's been laid out, I was still begging, crying, please put such and such his name in there. And in fact, there's like a little mistake there around Latasha's name, because I begged them to like write a line, and the line that they put in there, I was rushing so much to get it that I didn't put the line in exactly as I wanted it to be. And so those are the types of things that happen. If you're thinking about writing a book, just know it's hell. Hell. Don't let anybody tell you. Yeah, some people will say it's a beautiful part. Yeah, I'm sure it is beautiful. But if you want the truth of the matter, it's hell on one side, and then it becomes heaven on the other side. I'm in the heaven process now. People have it. It looks beautiful. Folks are loving the book. They're seeing my vision. They're seeing me. And that's the heaven side. But it is hell going through the process. And so deciding who made it, the editors had a lot to do with that, because they picked up all the papers out the wind, grabbed everything, and they were like, okay, here's the book. This is what we think. And I read it over several times and was like, with an attitude, I guess.
Well, listen. I can relate. Last year, I released my memoir, Kamala, the Motherland and Me. And, try writing a story about somebody who's a sitting vice president turned Democratic nominee for president with all the shenanigans afoot. And so I get that. On the heaven side.
Well, congratulations. You did an amazing job.
Thank you. Folks have a chance to join Tamika on the heaven side in New York on February 13th at the New York Public Library. She's going to be in conversation there at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, in Washington, D.C. on February 18th, in Tulsa, Oklahoma on February 19th, in New Orleans at Baldwin and Company Coffee Bookstore on February 20th. And so go out and support her. When we come forward,
you left out Washington, D.C.
I thought I did.
Actually, did you say Washington? Let me say them, because I want to make sure we get them right. So February 13th, New York City, as you said, New York Public Library. I'm going to be there with some incredible people. That's my first New York stop, so that's a big one. So folks who are listening, please. February 18th, as has been said, Washington, D.C., Politics and Prose. February 19th, Tulsa, Oklahoma, All Saints Church. And then, of course, February 20th in New Orleans at Baldwin & Co. But listen, if you are listening, You go to TamikaDMallory.com, TamikaDMallory.com/tour. And there you can find all the tour dates, because those 4 are just a few of at least 25 dates that are in the works, and they're listed with links on my website, TamikaDMallory.com/tour.
Look, this tour is organized.
Yes, it is.
We hear that, and I may even pop up in Washington, D.C. to see you. But when we come forward, we want to talk a little bit about the struggle that you have dealt with silently, at least away from sort of the public square for a long time. I'm going to talk to you about life after rehab and rebuilding from ground zero. It's a deeply personal memoir. I've never experienced Tamika D. Mallory this personal until I had a chance to read an advanced copy of the book. I lived to tell the story. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA 1580. More when we come forward.
Engaged, enlightened, and empowered about issues related to national politics, elections, identity, culture change, and social justice. You tuned into the right place. A More Perfect Union continues when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Democrats have blocked a Senate vote on President Trump's FBI pick, Kash Patel, seeking more details on his Fifth Amendment invocation. They want to know why he refused to provide information. The delay pushes the vote back a week. Wall Street is closing with stocks mixed, but the S&P 500 has now closed higher for a 3rd straight day. SoCal Edison is acknowledging videos linking its equipment to the Eaton fire in California, but says no evidence confirms it. The fire burned 14,000 acres, killed 17 people, and destroyed thousands. The company admits its equipment may have sparked the smaller Hearst fire. And lung cancer, which disproportionately affects Black men, is rising in non-smokers. A study found it's the 5th leading cause of cancer deaths among lifelong non-smokers, with air pollution causing up to 70% of cases. Those people live in areas with poor air quality. I'm Amber Payton on the Black Information Network, your home for Black News First.
Crash in Seal Beach on the 405 northbound before the 605.
You are listening to and streaming.
It's blocked. And delays, well, they're really pushing back right now, coming off of the 605. Actually, let's call that from the 22 merge and the southbound side of the 405. It's also pretty crowded getting out of Long Beach. So watch out for delays here. You're backing up from about Lakewood Boulevard. It's also very slow moving on the 110 northbound out of Carson from the 405. Delays and stretches all the way to the 5 in Elysian Park, and southbound delays loading up through that same stretch, heading back to the 105 freeway.
Every day, a child in poverty waits for a sponsor is another day of hopelessness. There are thousands of kids who've been waiting over a year. End their wait. Sponsor a child with compassion today. Just text the word radio to 83393.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The mood in Dallas has not been good since the Mavericks traded Luka Doncic Saturday to get Anthony Davis. Fans have been protesting the trade outside American Airlines Center, the Mavericks Arena. Mavericks management was forced to give refunds to a large number of fans who canceled their season tickets for the rest of the season. On top of all the discontent in Dallas, AD has a strained abdomen. He missed Tuesday's game in Philadelphia and will not play tonight in Boston. The Mavericks are hoping AD is ready to play Saturday against Houston, their first home game since the trade. AD may need to be as healthy as possible the rest of the season to ease the pain for Mavericks fans of losing Doncic. AD is facing much more pressure than Doncic to satisfy a new fan base. If Doncic makes his Lakers debut Saturday against Indiana, he will likely get a festive welcome from Lakers Nation. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580 stands with you, neighbor to neighbor, bringing you resources and what you need to know. For information on fire recovery resources, recovery hubs, and available services, call 211 for the City of Los Angeles and 311 county-wide. aid distribution locations, repopulation updates, and safety rules are constantly changing. Visit the LA City and LA County websites for the latest. If you'd like to sign up for the county's free debris removal, fill out a right of entry form, or get a list of disaster recovery centers that are still active, please visit recovery.lacounty.gov or call the debris hotline at 844-347-3332. If you're vulnerable to mudslides with rain in the forecast, free sandbags are being offered. Go to lacounty.pw/sandbags to find out where to get them. Businesses who have lost their facilities due to the fires can use a regional online source to get free or discounted locations. Whether you're interested in donating or finding space, you can visit the Business to Business Space Share portal at spaceshare.lacounty.gov. Additional LA County small business support and programs can be found at opportunity.lacounty.gov. Praying, advocating, and standing with you. KBLA Talk 1580.
I started vaping my freshman year of high school, mostly because all my friends had vapes. I wanted to fit in with them and look cool and be a part of everything that they were doing. The hardest part about quitting for me was all my friends still hitting their vapes right next to me. It was really frustrating and confusing when I was trying to quit because in my head I knew I didn't want to do it anymore, but for some reason my brain still wanted it.
No quit story is the same. For free support, text Kick Nicotine to 66819 today.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me!
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and she is author, Tamika D. Mallory. She's author of I Lived to Tell the Story. It's a memoir of love, legacy, and resilience. I have it right here. I have thoroughly enjoyed reading this book, in part because you mentioned so many people that are friends, so many people that I deeply admire and respect, so many leaders on the front lines that we've featured right here on this show. And so this is the book for our audience. They've got to go out and pick it up. But one of the stories that you tell in this book that really surprised me, I had no idea of this. You revealed one of the most challenging parts of recovering after rehab. And so talk to us about your journey in sobriety.
Yes, so that was hard to write. There are people who know, it's not that it's a secret. When I first came home from rehab, I was, pretty much no one knew I was there. And except a few people in my family, a very, very close group of individuals. And I was under an alias, actually Jason Williams, the NBA All-Star, who we all know has experienced some really, really serious issues of his own. And Jason is doing really, really well. He actually works in the wellness space now. He mentioned to me one day that, that was his new life, all about wellness after all the issues that he had faced. He really delved into building wellness spaces, particularly for people who needed to address traumas and alcohol abuse, drug abuse, so on and so forth. And so the book details how I engaged him, trying to not tell him that it was me, but I engaged him asking if he could help a friend of mine. And it gives you a full account of what took place there and how I ended up in rehab. And I tell you, it was hard to write it because people, while they know, some people, like you said, you've not heard it, It's been a few places that I've mentioned it, but it's not something that I just plaster on my face and wear around. And because as I said, you sometimes want to bury things that have been bad decisions that you've made that put you in a compromising place. And we know how judgmental this world is. Folks will never let you forget it. It was a time when, especially during the presidential campaign, where people, in order to troll me, they would say like, you pill popper, or you drug addict, and that's because they heard it in a few places. And so I had those fears. And as I said, since I was under an alias, people didn't really know I was there. I really could have kept it to myself as long as I wanted to. However, I knew that it wasn't my story to hide. It was God's story to be told, because I could have died. I was taking 20 to 30 pills a day, depending on my level of depression. It all started because I could not sleep properly. And so I was taking pill after pill after pill every hour, every few hours of the day, just trying to survive, just trying to numb all of the pain that yes, the Women's March had a huge part of it, because the stress that we experienced, as I mentioned earlier, during the Women's March was really, really hard for any person, and particularly for us as women, and me as a Black woman, to have to deal with. But there are traumas that have gone on for a long time that went unaddressed because I did not understand the power of therapy, which is very important to me now. That was one of the biggest takeaways. Leaving rehab, going home, I knew that I had to find the right therapist and stick with the process, not just when I was feeling better, but until today. And thankfully, because after the election, I have needed therapy more now than almost any other time in my life. And so with that being said, it was a hard thing to write about, but I'm glad that it's out there in the world now, because now you can see what it's like on the other side. I used to ask God when I was in the rehab facility, to please take the taste from my mouth, just the desire, to even want to swallow the pill, like take that from me. And now I don't even think about that. It's something that I will never, ever, ever go back to in my life. So, so the process hasn't been easy. I try to lay out as much as possible, because I'll tell you, since I have mentioned this once or twice on social media and other places, and I did a Breakfast Club interview once where I talked about my experience, and you wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure you wouldn't be, but there are a lot of people who would be surprised of the phone calls, the DMs from people who we know, people who we see out there in the world, who have reached out to me, some of them with the same story that I had when I contacted Jason. Oh, I have a friend, a brother, a cousin, but you can kind of tell that they are also standing in need. And then some people have been very straightforward with me that, listen, I'm in trouble. I have these different things going on, especially during COVID. People, in 2021, people really need help. So, so it's good that it's out there. It's not easy. It's very, very vulnerable. But I think the story needed to be told, because I'm a true believer that anytime God touches us, we have a responsibility to share it with the world, so that people will know that they can too. They can too. Get past something that is really, really a dark, dark time in their lives.
Amen, amen, amen. I really appreciate that in the book you talk about, how recovery is a never-ending journey, and how the fight that often begins when the world assumes that it's over. And talk to us a little bit about sort of the day-to-day fight to rebuild your life, because people will hear this and think, okay, check box. She handled that. She did that, right? But it's every day you have to do that, right?
Yeah. It's trusting myself as well. That's been a part of the process. It's just trusting myself enough. And again, being a little bit, softer with me, because part of why I ended up in this situation is because the Women's March, I ended up leaving along with Linda Sarsour, my dear sister, and Bob Bland. When we left, and then eventually Carmen Perez. So the four co-chairs, of the original Women's March, we decided to leave, and my name was on the incorporation documents for the organization. The bank account was in my name. I was holding, if you will, the keys to all of the to the organization's well-being, and to give that up, to turn it over to a group of people who weren't even there from day one, most of them. It wasn't an easy thing. So imagine going home with that, feeling like, did I fail myself? Should I have fought more to hold on to something that was literally breaking me? It was a really difficult thing. So I had to learn to trust myself that I made the right decision. I wanted to organize in a different way. I believe in the organizing of individuals for their particular peer group. So I believe in women organizing with women, men organizing with men. But I understand that in the Black community, the relationship between Black men and Black women is way too important. And we have way too much that we're fighting against for us to sort of be separated. And so I wanted to be in a different type of organizing space. So the day-to-day of that, rebuilding, finding what is the purpose for, why did I go through the Women's March, and what am I supposed to do now? How to move forward, how to trust myself enough that, it's okay to start another organization. Because you can imagine, for a while, I was like, that's it for me. I don't want to have anything to do with organizing other people. And I locked myself down. I committed to building not just from the outside, but from the inside. My spiritual healing, my therapy is critically important. And I'll tell you, this is the last thing to this point. In my book, I have a quote that I don't know, it just one night it came to me. And I say it over and over and over, that I was born fighting for freedom, because as a little girl, I was out there 3 years old with my parents. That didn't work. Are you going to edit it out? Okay, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. And so so the quote in the book, as a little girl, I started out. So I say I was born fighting for freedom, and I know that I will be in this movement until I die. I know that this is my home. Trust me. I have tried. I've said I'm going to go corporate. I'm just going to find me a rich man and go live, I don't know where, somewhere in the world. I have everything you could think of. In those frustrating moments, I have said, I am going to figure it out. Something else, because I can't take it, especially dealing with Black folks every day. It is not easy. It is not easy. It is not easy. So I was born fighting for freedom. I will die fighting for freedom. But this time, freedom also includes me. And I think that is the day-to-day process that, hey, freedom includes me. It's okay for me to smile. It's okay for me to fail. It's okay for me to change my mind and decide I don't want to do something. I don't want to be around certain people. I don't want to be in certain spaces. It's okay. Those decisions I can actually make and feel good about myself once I make them. So that's where I am. That's what the day-to-day is. Freedom now includes me, and I am so grateful. I'm not going to tell you that it's a perfect journey either, because I slip back and slide to the side every single day, but I keep going, and I have principles that I'm living by that makes me better at it from moment to moment.
Is a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
February is African American and Black History Month, and LA County Library is celebrating the voices and achievements of African Americans throughout the month. Join us for art workshops, family story times, and more. Revisit classic literature from African American authors and discover new favorites. It's a month of learning and fun for library lovers of all ages. Find out more at www.lacountylibrary.org and celebrate Black History Month at LA County Library.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. The Los Angeles Regional Food Bank is on a mission to fight hunger and provide nutritious food to those in need across our community. They partner with federal, state, and local programs advocating for better policies and funding for critical hunger relief programs like Cal Fresh, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care
In
Food
our remaining
Program.
minutes
The food
with
bank
you,
works with
with the
coalitions and
project
local
we
representatives
embarked
to make sure hunger is addressed in every district of LA County. They also run nutrition education campaigns, raise hunger awareness, and source nutritious food for distribution, all while supporting regulations that allow food pantries to operate safely. Want to help? Visit lafoodbank.org or call 323-234-3030 to volunteer or find a food bank near you. Together, we can ensure that no one goes hungry in Los Angeles County. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
It's KBLA Talk 1580's third annual Black History Month luncheon, and you're invited. This is year 2 of our climate justice work, and this year's $2 million 12-month campaign is all about linking and combating the relationship between climate and Black health. We already know that these wildfires will leave in their wake even greater inequities, including negative impacts on Black health, given the toxic air pollutants circulating in the air we breathe. So, as part of this year's climate campaign, we're honoring Black doctors and leaders in healthcare at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Friday, February 28th at noon. If you would like to join us, just go to our KBLA 1580 website and register for your chance to be our guest at the luncheon. We'd love to see you. And in case you haven't heard the news, KBLA Talk 1580 was just named one of the semifinalists for the American Climate Leadership Awards 2025. Caring about the climate, caring about the community, changing the conversation. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we don't black down.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. Beating in rhythm to the world you've created. But every time you drive after drinking, music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzz driving is drunk driving. Don't drive buzzed. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBL.
In our remaining minutes with you, Tamika, I have to ask you about something you write about in chapter 15, Change Gonna Come. You talk about your experience with the Women's March and how overwhelming it was. At some points, how miserable you were in your own skin, and especially with having cameras in your face. But instead, there was, quotes, however, some joy associated with the project when we embarked on the journey to tell the story of the Mallory lineage. The day we took a camera crew to learn about a man we believe to be my ancestor, Shepard Mallory, was one I will never forget. You tell that story so beautifully. In our remaining minutes together, what wisdom would you impart on our leaders, learners, and listeners in terms of, rooting themselves in their lineage, rooting themselves at a time where we feel untethered? We feel untethered to something real, something true, something deep. What advice would you offer us?
I think studying history is so important. Over the last several weeks, this nation has been dealing with the attacks on DEI, which has caused folks to engage in protests, boycotts. I'm certainly engaged in some of that. And, I've had people reach out to me and say, well, why are we doing this one company when we should be doing 20 companies? And why don't we just shut it all down? And I have been reminding people to pick up books and read about the history of what Dr. King, Reverend Jesse Jackson, and others have done before us. Read about the Montgomery bus boycott. Read about some of the struggles that they faced in the 60s and even beyond, because I think when we're rooted in our history and we understand what has happened before us, we will know that, first of all, there ain't nothing new under the sun. In the good saying that your grandmama will tell you, ain't nothing new under the sun, baby. You're doing the same thing I did. That these things have happened before and they made it through. Because right now there's a lot of despair. There are a lot of people who are like, I am scared. I don't know how we're going to go through this. How are we going to look on the other side? And certainly where we are is damaging. However, we have fought big fights before. We have been in these places before. In fact, we were in a worse position because we didn't have the cell phones and all the technology that connects us together. But we've got to know where we've been in order to know where we're going. We need to know about our parents and our grandparents and our grandparents' grandparents to know where they were, to understand their struggles in order for us to see and know more about ourselves. And lastly, I would say that it is also important for us to study our family lineage and our community lineage, because we will therefore know some of the traumas that have been passed down to us. So much of who we are and how we show up in the world is not even about things that we can see and hear with our own ears. It is the experiences that our ancestors have had and how they pass down fears, and they pass down even some good times. You know, some of the 2 steps we do came from the good times of our people. It's not all bad, but there are some things that are in our very DNA, in our bloodline, that if we understand it, we can see it when it shows up. The way we act, the way that we treat one another, the way that we treat our children, we will be able to catch it and say, oh, I know exactly where that comes from, and I can either change it, enhance it, or let it be as it is, because it is actually the joy that brings us together. So yeah, I'm all in my history, especially during this time, because I want to know, what would my ancestors do to fight someone who believes that he is the king, okay? He believes that he is going to unleash fascism on us in this nation in a way that in his mind, he probably thinks he's doing for the first time. But I know that there are some of us who are going to rise up and we're going to fight back, and we will be victorious.
My thanks to Tamika D. Mallory, the author of I Lived to Tell the Story, a memoir of love, legacy, and resilience. Run, don't walk to get this. This is really, truly a gift. It is on sale and available starting February 11th, 2025. This is a great Valentine's Day gift, to say the least. You don't need a special occasion. Valentine's Day, Black History Month. This is going to age well with time. But hurry up and go get it. Thank you, Tamika D. Mallory, for your work and your witness.
Thank you so much. The audio version is also available. I am the person who recorded most of it, but there are a few other voices that are in the book as well. So you should definitely download the audio and check it out while you're working out or wherever else you listen to audiobooks. And thank you, Dr. Nee. Thank you for having me on. Thank you to your audience. I appreciate the opportunity so much.
Absolutely. You've been listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. Wasn't that a great interview? I really enjoyed being in conversation with Tamika D. Mallory. As I said during our time together, I have never experienced her as warm and as open and as thoughtful as she was one-on-one in that conversation. And so be sure to go out and check out her book. Again, if you go to her website, you can look at all of the locations where she's going to be on her book tour. I've already told her I'll be looking for her when she's in Washington, D.C. In a little over a week. And if you want to look for me and her, then, show up in Washington, D.C. Go ahead and pull up. Before we let you go, we want to remind you that if you're in the LA area, particularly Pasadena, Altadena, then you may want to check out this Eaton Fire Resource Fair being hosted by our friends over at the NAACP and a number of organizations, including FEMA, the American Red Cross, the Housing Rights Center, RISE, Economy, and also the National Housing Law Project, as well as FEMA and the U.S. Small Business Administration. This resource fair is taking place at the New Revelations Missionary Baptist Church, located at 855 North Orange Grove Boulevard in Pasadena. Join the NAACP and these community organizations to get information that you need, again, on housing, on insurance claims support, pending litigation, and financial resource assistance from the Red Cross. Food will be provided today, February 6th, from 6 to 9 p.m. Pacific. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village helps us produce a more perfect union each and every day. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, the man, Andy, as well as our dynamic duo of producers, Kim and Faraji. And of course, each and every one of you, all of our leaders, learners, and listeners. Selena Ricks, we see you in the group chat on the YouTube. And to everybody else that has been streaming us and listening to us on your device someplace across America and around the world, we thank you. Remember, do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Corte, and you've been listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. The Department of Justice is suing Illinois and Chicago for blocking President Trump's immigration policies and sanctuary laws. Hoboken, New Jersey Assemblywoman Jessica Ramirez is introducing Cassie's Law in the state to penalize hiding crime evidence. Inspired by Cassie Ventura's 2016 assault by Sean Diddy Combs, Ramirez, a